It all started with a letter. My name is Leo Vargas. I am a sports journalist specializing in investigations. My source, who signed up as Whistle, sent me a video. The Dolphins team's night training session in an empty gym. The players moved with unnatural speed. Their eyes were glassy, and strange bracelets with sensors sparkled on their wrists. At the end of the video, there are shots of a morgue. 3 bodies in black bags with Eurobasket 23 tags. I started digging. The Dolphins are a modest club that suddenly made it to the finals last season. Their main sponsor is Vitacor, a company that produces dietary supplements for athletes. The CEO, Dr. Rainer Schultz, is a former military surgeon who resigned after a scandal involving experiments on prisoners. I got a job at the Dolphins under the guise of a physical fitness coach. The first thing that caught my eye was the special diet of the players. Every morning they received capsules in black blisters without markings. When I asked the team doctor, Dr. Eliza Martinez, about this, she smiled. This is a secret Vitacor development. Increases stamina. Without doping, of course. But that same night, I snuck into the medical office. In the refrigerator, among the ampoules with vitamins, I found a bottle with the inscription XC12. The instructions contain a warning: side effects, aggression, hallucinations, tissue necrosis. The next day, I decided to talk to the captain of the team, Mario Ribera. He avoided his gaze, his fingers trembling. Leave before it's too late. They're watching. In the evening, Mario was found in the locker room with his veins cut. In his hand was a crumpled piece of paper. They implanted them in us. Main plot, beginning, 7,000 character. After Ribera's death, the Dolphins withdrew from the tournament. The official reason is tragic circumstances. But I knew that this was just the tip of the iceberg. A week later, Svistek called me. A voice distorted by a disguiser. Look for the Vitacor clinic in Zone 8. There are answers. Zone 8 turned out to be a closed industrial park on the outskirts of the city. The clinic was disguised as a warehouse. I made my way inside through the ventilation. A laboratory smelling of formalin and copper. The cages contain experimental dogs with spinal implants. The monitors show the indicators of Eurobasket players: pulse, adrenaline, aggression. Suddenly, a siren sounded. I hid in the closet, watching through the crack. Dr. Schultz entered the room with 2 guards. The XC12 sample has failed, he said, examining the man's corpse on the table. The neuro-implant overheated, causing organ failure. Increase the cooling for the next test subjects. The guards took out the body. Schultz took out his phone. Yes, the board of directors is aware. We need to speed up team integration before the Eurobasket finals. I took a picture of the documents on the table. Contracts with the Basketball Federation, reports on the testing of players. Suddenly, the phone whistle vibrated in my pocket. Geolocation is open. I was grabbed when I tried to get out through the fire exit. The guards injected me with a tranquilizer dose. I woke up in a white room, chained to a chair. In front of me are Dr. Schultz and Elisa Martinez. You've ruined 6 months of our work, Eliza said. But now you will become part of the experiment. She injected me with XC12. The world exploded with pain. I felt like something metallic was being screwed into the base of my skull. The implant synchronizes your brain with the system, Schultz explained. You will see what we see, to hear what we hear. And tomorrow you will go to the playground in the Dolphins uniform. The implant burned his brain like a red-hot needle. I tried to move my arm, but my muscles wouldn't work. They just twitched in time to the clicks from the speaker above my head. Test number 1. Motor functions. Schultz's voice came from the speakers. My hand rose of its own accord, clenched into a fist, and hit the armrest of the chair. The bone cracked, but there was no pain. Just cold clarity. Great. Exceive 12 blocks pain receptors. Let's move on to cognitive control. The screen in front of me lit up with footage of the Dolphins vs. Spartan match. My body suddenly jumped up, my legs carried me to the door. I screamed inside, but my mouth wouldn't open. You are a tool. You're perfect. The voice in my head sounded like my own, but it was his voice. Schultz. I was taken to a secret facility under the Eurobasket stadium. In the underground complex, dozens of players in identical overalls trained under the supervision of doctors. Their movements were synchronized, like puppets. A new batch, Schultz pointed to the cages with people. Homeless, illegal immigrants. Perfect test subjects. They will soon be replaced by those who are more obedient. In the locker room, I met Sarah, a defender from the Norwegian national team. Her left arm was covered with sores, and her eyes were glittering madly. They're implanting chips through vaccines. She whispered as the guards turned away. We are gods at matches. And after. She was interrupted by a blow from a baton. The guard was dragging Sarah to the elevator when she broke free and shouted, "Look for frequency 467. I stole a seismograph from the lab last night." Sarah was talking about radio waves, perhaps a way to jam the implant. In the bathroom, with trembling hands, I set the device to 467 megahertz. The implant howled. For a second, the control weakened. I was able to pull out of my pocket the sharpener hidden in the seam of my shoe. Attempted sabotage, Schultz's voice says over the speakers. Activate the Omega protocol. Muscles cramped. I fell down, watching the guards running towards me. Suddenly, Sarah jumped out of the shadows with a fire extinguisher. Foam filled the hallway, giving me a second to escape. Lift to level B3. She pushed me down the shaft. There's a transmitter in there. It will kill their network, and us. The elevator crashed down. On B3, there is a server room with a giant antenna. I connected the seismophone by activating the frequency. The screen blinked. The implants are deactivated. Self-destruct in 5 minutes. The guards rushed in. I fought like a beast, using the skills imposed by the implant. Their blood mixed with mine, but I made it to the exit. The Eurobasket final was raging above. The players infected with XC12 moved with superhuman precision. The audience was screaming in delight, not noticing how someone from the stands was bleeding from their ears. I burst into the playground with the transmitter. Turned on the 467 megahertz frequency. The players froze. One by one, they fell, writhing in fits. The implants overheated, leaving burns on the skin. Schultz ran out of the VIP box with a pistol. You've destroyed years of work. You have turned sports into a massacre. I threw the transmitter at his feet. The antenna exploded. The wave knocked out the lights in the stadium. In the chaos, I disappeared into the crowd, wiping the blood from my face. A month later, I published an investigation. Vitacor went bankrupt, but Schultz disappeared. The Eurobasket players who are still alive are silent. Their lawyers refer to the confidentiality of treatment. Sometimes I feel itchy at the base of my skull. Doctors say it's a phantom pain. But at night, in the silence, I hear clicks. You are a tool. You're perfect. Leo Vargas was sitting in an underground studio on the outskirts of the city, staring at a screen with a stream of encrypted data. After the publication of the investigation, his face flashed in every news release, but the fame did not last long. A week later, all mentions of Vitacor disappeared from search engines, and key witnesses began to die under strange circumstances. "They're back," the hooded woman said, entering the room. It was Kira, a former Vitacor IT specialist, who escaped with a hard drive full of blueprints. The new project is called Phoenix. They use stadiums as distribution points. Spreading what? Leo squinted at the neural interface circuits. The virus. modified XCV12. It is transmitted through the sweat glands. The audience gets infected without even touching the players. She included a video from the test arena in Eastern Europe. The crowd chanted, and then, as if on cue, fell silent. People froze with empty eyes, then began to move synchronously, like robots. The goal is mass control. Eurobasket is just a cover. Leo infiltrated the maintenance staff of the Global Arena Stadium, where the final was to be held. His task is to install repeaters that jam the virus signal. But everything didn't go according to plan. In the tunnel under the stands, he came across Kira's body. Her throat had been slit, and there was blood on the wall. Frequency 467 is dead. In her hand, she clutched a USB stick labeled Phoenix Protocol. During the night, Leo hacked into the stadium's server system. Phoenix's data turned out to be worse than he thought. The virus was embedded in DNA, making the carrier's live antennas. By infecting 10% of the population, the system started a chain reaction. "Hi, Leo," Schultz's voice came over the speakers. "Do you still believe that you can save them?" A live broadcast appeared on the screen. The players of the final teams in an underground bunker. Devices resembling ventilators were connected to their spines. They are the first repeaters. In an hour, millions will become part of the network. And you too. Leo found a laboratory under the arena. Inside there are dozens of capsules with people connected to neural interfaces. Among them was a boy of about 12, the son of the mayor of the city, who disappeared a month ago. Volunteers. Leo grinned, hiding the flash drive with the virus in the ventilation. The best donors. Schultz came out of the shadows, holding a taser. Their brains are cleaner. The signal is stronger. Leo yanked on the liquid nitrogen hose. The jet hit Schultz in the face. The skin cracked, exposing titanium implants. "Are you a cyborg?" Leo recoiled. Prototype. Schultz stood up, mechanical tendons creaking. "Phoenix is an evolution. Resistance is useless." Leo activated the repeaters. The 467 MHz frequency hit Schultz's implants, disabling the sensors. He froze, giving Leo time to connect the flash drive to the main server. "The virus has been removed," green text flashed on the screen. "The system is disabled." But it was too late. The first spectators were already entering the stands, their pupils dilated, their movements sharp and precise. Leo went down into an underground tunnel under an abandoned subway station, where, according to Kira, the Phoenix laboratory was located. The air was thick with the smell of chlorine and rotting flesh. The walls were covered with strange black spots. On closer inspection, they turned out to be colonies of fungus, pulsating in time with the sounds of ventilation. Secret number 1. Biological weapons. In the first laboratory, he found cells with hybrids. Not humans or animals, but creatures with scaly skin and empty eye sockets. The signs have dates and codes. Project Chimera. Fusion of the DNA of virus carriers with deep-sea marine organisms. One of the samples was still breathing. His hand, which looked more like a fin, twitched, scratching the glass. Leo stepped on something soft. The flashlight picked out the lab assistant's corpse from the darkness. His face was turned inside out, as if the skin had been carefully peeled off and sewn back with metal wire stitches. There is a dictaphone in the dead man's hand. Last entry. "They made us eat the fungus. They said it would strengthen the connection with the implants. Now it's growing inside." A wheeze interrupted the scream. Secret number 2. Control through DNA. In the next room, rows of test tubes glowed green. There is a video on the monitor. Scientists manually inject the virus into embryos. Caption: Omega generation. 100% susceptibility to control through genetic modification. There were jars of fetuses on the shelves, and some had camera lenses instead of eyes. Leo heard crying. A 5-year-old girl was sitting in the corner, clutching a bear cub to her chest. Her skin was transparent, and a beating heart could be seen through her ribs. "Help!" She held out her hand. Leo took a step closer, and the girl exploded, releasing a swarm of insects with metal wings. They dug into his neck, poisoning his mind with hallucinations. Secret number 3. Live networks. Having barely reached the server room, Leo discovered the brain of the system, a giant organ connected to wires. It was a human brain, enlarged to an incredible size and pulsing in a nutrient solution. A name popped up on the screen: Dr. Emil Voss, co-founder of VitaCore. His body died in 1999, but his consciousness was transferred to this flesh. My brain started pounding, and a roar came out of the speakers. "Leo, you've become part of a great whole," Voss's voice hissed. The walls of the reservoir burst, releasing tentacles from the neurons. They wrapped around Leo, digging into the implant. He felt other people's memories overriding his mind. Executions of villages in Africa, tests on political prisoners, children screaming in operating rooms. Secret number 4. Mass mopping up. Leo broke away after finding a report stamped, approved by the UN Security Council, in his desk drawer. Phoenix was not a madman project, but a government program. The files pointed to secret clinics in war zones, where entire cities were turned into test subjects. He hid in the elevator, but the cabin collapsed into the shaft. As he fell, the door opened slightly, and Leo saw a farm. Hundreds of people chained to machines, their mouths stretched by tubes feeding fungus. A crystal synthesizing a DNA virus was sticking out of everyone's chest. Leo activated the backup frequency, blowing up the server frequency. The fire engulfed the laboratory, but the radio sounded. "The Ascension Protocol has been activated." Transition to the stage of contamination through the atmosphere. He climbed to the surface, watching as black rain clouds fell from the sky. The first drops left burns on the asphalt. In his pocket he found an ampoule with the inscription "Antidote." "The Last Hope." But the label was marked with the same logo as the jars with embryos. Leo stood on the roof of an abandoned skyscraper, watching black clouds block out the sun. Rain from the virus fell on the city, leaving smoking craters on the asphalt. People ran for cover, but their screams subsided as soon as the drops touched their skin. They froze, their eyes flickered with a bluish light, and their fingers began to twitch to the rhythm of an invisible metronome. The fungus released by the lab explosion has already mutated. It grew through concrete, entwined corpses and the living, turning them into translators of the Phoenix network. The streets were filled with hybrids, those who managed to get infected first. Their skin was covered with chitinous plates, their jaws spread like snakes, and their voices merged into a mechanical chorus. "We. United. We. Perfect." Leo went down to the underground bunker where the last of the uninfected were hiding. Among them is a child with immunity, a girl named Alice, whose blood accidentally blocked the virus. Her DNA was the key to salvation, but the antidote injected by Leo made him a threat. You're one of them." A woman in the crowd poked at him with a knife, seeing the pupil slits. Leo didn't resist. The blade entered his stomach, but the wound healed in seconds. The antidote did not cure. It rebuilt the body, making it part of the system. "I can stop them," he whispered to Alice. "But I need your blood." The girl nodded, holding out her hand. The syringe trembled in his fingers as he filled it. The surface was in chaos. The army bombarded the hybrids with napalm, but the fire only fueled the fungus. The Phoenix evolved faster than bullets. Leo made his way to the main antenna on the TV tower. Every drop of his blood contained a killer virus capable of reprogramming the network. But in order to launch it, contact was needed with the core of the system, the brain of Voss, which now existed in the data cloud. He connected the syringe with Alice's blood to the transmitter. The screen flashed, antigen loading, 10%. The hybrids sensed the threat. They stormed the tower, climbing the walls like spiders. Leo shot at them, but for every one he killed, 10 new ones came. "You're a traitor," Voss's voice boomed in his mind. "We have given you immortality." "The immortality of a slave?" Leo put the last bullet in the server. "I choose freedom." The download is 100%. Activation. The explosion of the antigen wave burned out the network. The hybrids collapsed dead, the fungus crumbled to dust, and the clouds dispersed. But the price was high. The antigen killed everything genetically modified, including Leo. He sat at the foot of the tower, watching as his skin cracked, exposing the metal tendons. Alice clung to him, crying. He smiled, wiping the blood from her face. "You're free now." His body crumbled into ashes. Alice was left alone in a dead city, where the wind carried the ashes of millions. It's been 5 years. The survivors built settlements on the ruins, surrounding them with walls of charred fungus. Alice became a scientist. She's looking for a way to restore humanity's DNA, but the pure blood samples are disappearing. At night, she hears radio interference, signals too complex for the surviving transmitters. A screen flashes in a secret laboratory under the ruins of Vita Core. The inscription, "The Phoenix 2.0 protocol has been activated. Reincarnation in 72 hours. A shadow moves in a dark corner. A man with vertical pupils is typing a code on a keyboard. His face is hidden, but there is an L-shaped burn scar on his arm. What's happening now? The world is divided into zones. Scorched deadlands ruled by mutated animals and outposts of people slowly going mad with fear. Phoenix is not dead. It is waiting for new leaders to repeat the mistakes of the past. And in the depths of the abandoned laboratories, the clock is ticking until the next cataclysm.